Welcome to my kitchen. I'm Jamie and this is Eat Homemade. I never buy bread anymore. It is one of the things that I just don't buy. Number one, making it at home is so much cheaper. Number two, you get a few muscles in your arms as well. And number three, it tastes so much better. Even my children, who in their teenage years can be slightly fussy, this is the bread that they will devour with avocado, with bacon, with eggs on top, or you can just slice it and put it in the freezer as well so that they can grab out a slice and pop it in the toaster and have it with some nice smooth peanut butter. So let me show you how I make my super easy rustic cob loaf. This is such an easy loaf of bread, and if you have water, flour, something sweet and some yeast, you can whip up a loaf of bread every single day for such a small amount of money. So for this loaf, I'm starting with 1.5 cups of tepid water, and I'm adding 3 teaspoons of yeast. You need something sweet as well to activate and feed the yeast, so I'm using 2 teaspoons of sugar. You could replace this with honey or raw sugar or just something sweet to activate it. Give it a small stir and then we're going to leave it for 15 minutes somewhere warm. Now 15 minutes later, look at the difference. This is activated yeast now. It's all ready to go. We can go ahead and add our flour. So I'm using regular bread flour. This is a high grade flour and I'm adding 3.5 cups of flour. You'll want to set aside just a small amount of flour, say 1/4 cup, just for dusting your bench and making sure your hands aren't going to get sticky. I'm adding 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of salt. Give it a little bit of a stir with your wooden spoon, or I just like to use my hand. This makes sure that it's not going to be too sticky when I pour it out onto my bench. A little bit of flour on my bench so nothing sticks, and then I'm going to start kneading my dough. This particular loaf doesn't need too much kneading. I would say, if it gets sticky, just add a little bit more flour. I would say I probably knead this for 2 minutes and then it's all done. So I've been teaching children how to make bread for about 20 years, and I always say, don't put your fingers in the bread. Just use the palm of your hand to knead the dough back and forth. So after a couple of minutes, you'll see that your dough starts to change. It's a bit more elastic and it should get a little bit of a shine to it. That means it's just about ready. So every time it gets sticky, just add a little bit more of that flour that you set aside. Now we can see that it's shiny, that it's elastic, and we can pop it back into the bowl, add a little bit of the extra flour just so it doesn't stick. And now I'm going to cover this with the baking paper that I'm going to cook it on, and also one of my crinkly tea towels that I haven't ironed, and put this aside for 1 to 2 hours somewhere warm. Now that it's been rising, we can see that it has doubled in size, and that is just how we want it to look. To this, I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of my wholemeal flour. This gives the top of my loaf a really nice, crunchy, rustic look. So a little bit of my wholemeal flour, just so it doesn't get too sticky. Now you'll notice when I'm taking the dough out, I'm not punching it down, I'm not being too rough with it, because I don't want it to lose all that beautiful air that it's worked so hard to get. So I'm just kind of lifting it from the bottom and being very gentle with it. So even though it's still a little bit sticky, I'm just going to be able to fold it into either a round loaf or an oblong rectangle loaf and dust it with a little bit of my wholemeal flour so that it's got that crunchy top. Sort of pinch it in at the bottom so that it stays together. And like I said, I'm just not pushing it so that the air is being lost from it. If that makes sense, I hope it does. A little bit more of my wholemeal flour on top. And now, if you've got a nice sharp knife, you can just sort of cut the top. And now I'm going to preheat my oven just while that gets a little bit more of the air inside it as well. Preheat to 170 or 180 degrees. Now 25 minutes later, this is how it's looking. I did leave it to rest a couple of minutes, so don't worry, I'm not burning my hands. It's still warm, but it's not piping hot. And it is a nice crunchy loaf, really crunchy on top. You could even put it in for a couple of extra minutes if you like it really crunchy, but this is just how we like it. And as I slice it, you can see that it's beautiful and soft and springy inside. It's going to be so nice just with some butter on it. You could even cut this up and put garlic butter on it. And like I said, it freezes perfectly as well.